WHAV.
Catch the wave, WHAV, Merrimack Valley. Open mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, 97.9 WHAV FM presents the new Open Mic Show with Bill Masek. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900.
Monday night, that means we're here.
Well, how are you tonight?
I'm fine. Why is your mic not working? Let me see here.
There's a pink slip in my
There we go.
envelope this week.
There we go. I control.
Is it working now?
I control your microphone.
Hello, Houston. Can you hear us?
Yes. Hello. Yes, we are on.
You ever hear those stories about supposedly there's structures on the moon and on the backside of the moon? They've seen stuff.
Yeah.
You think that's
It's
true?
dark back there, though. You need a flashlight.
Very dark back there.
Dark side of the moon.
You know what? That'd be a nice album cover.
Think about that, huh? Maybe you could have like a
triangular thing?
like a pyramid with reflective colors in it.
This is deja vu all over again.
Jeez, does that really happen already?
I think so.
Yeah. Hey, this is Bill Masek and Bill Ellis, co-host here on the new Open Mic Show. We're here every Monday night from 6 until 8. We have a very interesting guest coming on in the 7 o'clock hour. But this hour, we've got open lines, we've got open conversation, and we're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff. And we hope it to be interesting, but we'll make it even more interesting if people call us at 978-374-1900. They can call to talk about anything they'd like, but also they can call to maybe win a cake.
Cake would be nice.
Cake.
When is, my birthday's in July. Can I enter?
You can enter your name, sure. You have to check with the boss, maybe.
You know what
you may be excluded.
Do you know what
See, I'm just such a nice guy, Bill.
But I know.
I let you. Sure, you can even ask yourself a trivia question, and if you get it, you can put your name in twice.
You're as cruel as can be, and I'll tell you what I think
Cruel?
you would do. You know I'm trying to lose weight. You would rig it so I would win the cake because you know I couldn't eat it. That's what would happen.
That's the only way I'd get a slice.
You'd get it all. I wouldn't be able to eat it.
Even if I just got a slice that way.
Because your birthday's coming up. You celebrate it every 2 years, right? You celebrate your birthday every 2 years?
No, I wasn't born on leap year or something. Why?
Well, leap year's 4 years.
I'm no. What you're thinking about, I probably told you, I try to get my birthday twice a year.
That would be nice.
Because I was born on Columbus Day, and I was also born on October 12th. Back then, they were one and the same. But now they've changed that.
Indigenous people name.
Columbus Day still is, I think, the second Monday of October, regardless of the number of the day. So I've tried to convince my friends and relatives that I was born on October 12th, Columbus Day. Therefore, I should get a gift on Columbus Day and October 12th, if it's a different day, which usually it is. No takers.
So let me ask you a question.
Takers.
Well, I can understand that. So let me ask you a question, Will. You're pretty smart, I guess. You tell me. Did Jesus celebrate Christmas?
I'm not sure, but I don't think so.
Because you're a little bit of a theologian.
Because
I hear you walking around all the time saying, "Oh God."
You may not be wrong about that. No, but I think wasn't Jesus Jewish?
He was Jewish.
He was a Hebrew.
So you think he had Hanukkah?
I don't know. I don't even know if they celebrated those holidays back then. I wasn't around.
Really?
Yeah. Maybe
but did you ever study
maybe we
any
could
of that
check
at all,
check with Jerry when he calls in.
Yeah. Jerry's pretty smart.
Jerry's 90 years old, and he is wicked smart.
Jerry is smart as
I
smart
hope he's
can
listening
be.
and laughing right now, and he's welcome to give us a call.
I'm sure he is, and he'll call us up, and he'll tell us
but let's talk
a little bit about drinking water.
So if somebody has a birthday in the month of July
or an anniversary,
they should call in, speak to our producer Chris, 978-374-1900 anytime during the show, and give the name and information to Chris. You're welcome to also come on the air and embarrass somebody or whatever you have to do to speak about your call, but you're very possible we will draw on the last Monday of June, which is next week.
Is it? Really?
Yeah, because the week after is July 2nd. So
No, it's not. This is the 11th.
Oh,
So
yeah,
the 18th,
18, that's right.
the
You know
25th.
what? Because I'm booking ahead the guests, and I'm thinking that, okay, the 18th, and then the 25th, and then the 2nd. So they've got a couple more weeks. On the
Right.
25th, we will pick one of those names out of our cowboy hat, which is pretty stuffed all the time, with people calling in. So, please call in and win a cake from
LBD's.
LBD's Italian Bakery,
Second
generation, and it's located in Bradford Square, Bradford, where the business is, and easy to find. And if you go in there, you will probably find so many things you want to buy. You'll have to control yourself. So,
Now, if you went in there, what would be the first item that you'd want to look at? You're a cannoli guy, aren't you?
No, not really. No. Italian cookies. I like Italian cookies. They make ones that are kind of lemon and they're covered with like a glaze. Did you ever
Really?
yeah. I think they're called Toto Popos or something like that. But those I like those. Yeah.
What famous line out of a movie had the word cannoli in it?
I don't know.
The Godfather, remember? Leave the gun, take the cannoli.
Oh, okay.
When they blew away the guy.
It's been a long time. When was that out? What was
70s, 74?
Was it that far?
Yeah,
Wow.
it goes way back.
Yeah, it goes way back. Now, do you rewatch movies? Are you one of those guys that'll
all the time.
Yeah. See, I don't.
Stormy Daniels movies I watch all the time.
Now stop that. I think that there's so many other things that I haven't seen that I usually don't watch a movie, a lot.
Yeah. What do you,
There
you
are
know,
a few.
I bet I mentioned Stormy Daniels as a joke, but do you see now she's come out with a perfume?
No.
Yeah, I can't remember the name, but some ridiculous thing. So this thing that they're doing with Donald Trump is all for her for financial gain.
It is.
It's all it is.
He was a private citizen. There's no proving it. He denies it. But even if it were true, he may have strayed as a married man.
And
but
indiscretion, which we've seen a lot with
I
presidents.
think that happens. Well, in the White House, it happens.
Yeah.
Not everybody, I don't think, but it does happen. Okay, hey, we got a call before we take our break. Brian is on the line. Brian, hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Hello. You should be asking for 3 different presents because you mentioned Columbus Day,
Yeah.
your birthday. Don't forget Yom Kippur because sometimes that falls on the 12th.
Oh, well, thank you for the advice.
Next time.
3. Now I'm entitled to 3.
See, I only have a Christian calendar. I don't have the Jewish
Well,
calendar.
look, I'm not Jewish. I wasn't brought up Jewish, but if I can get a third gift, I'll think about
Get
it.
your Jewish friends to
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
yeah, most definitely.
I like the way he thinks.
Brian is a pretty intelligent guy.
He is.
The thing that scares me about Brian, though, is when he was talking about sunbathing on his deck.
Oh, that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about
That was scary.
That's,
'Cause somebody showed me a picture of you, Brian, and I said, "Oh Lord."
Oh, I don't think so. I don't come out on film.
Oh. So Brian, what did you do for excitement today?
I didn't do anything for excitement today.
Well, that's good. Next caller.
I have. I'm looking for one of my moccasins.
Really?
Yeah, I lost one.
So are you walking around with just one moccasin?
Yeah, well, I could just wear the one moccasin and
Yeah.
let the other foot hang,
Well, you could put a heavy sock on it or something.
Well, somebody say, you lost a moccasin. And I said, no, man, I found one.
That could be too.
That's good. Yeah.
Now, do you wear them swimming? Because then there would be a water moccasin.
Oh,
That's a snake.
where's the drumming?
So
what do you got planned? You got any plans for the summer? 4th of July or anything?
No, I don't make plans
No?
anymore.
Okay.
Well, since my wife passed away, it's just not worth it.
Yeah. Hey, you know what I hate, though, coming up the 21st?
What's
The
that?
days start getting shorter.
I know.
I just love these long days.
Yeah, but what's interesting though? The days are actually getting longer because every year the moon moves away from the Earth by like an inch and a half.
Well, whatever we can get, because I'd like to just keep daylight savings time. How about you? It's something that the legislature is considering.
They've talked about it. Actually,
Yeah, I
was
never figured out why they really observe daylight saving time.
Well, it used to do with farmers. It was
but,
mainly
Ben-
for,
Benjamin
it was mainly
Franklin,
for
I think,
farmers.
Benjamin Franklin, I think, came out with the original idea.
Well, he said that he did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
And didn't they do it for kids for school or something, or to be more light in the morning or more light in the afternoon? Or I remember something about that.
It could have had
years
something
ago.
to do with schools too, but I thought it was mainly farmers.
Yeah. It's
Really.
the
Well,
other thing.
how many states are there that don't observe?
Well, I know Arizona doesn't.
Arizona doesn't.
No, and there
Any
used to be a
others?
piece of Indiana, I think, that didn't have it.
Yeah, there's a few, but there's a few leaning that way. In Florida, I think, is considering it.
I've heard that.
Yeah,
Well, what
but
about-
there's actually a federal law that says you can't do it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that'll have to get changed too. But did you see that Washington D.C. is kind of giving up on pot? They're going to let the states control. That's what they're talking about.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're not going to control it federally. They're going to let the states decide.
Well,
Whether-
they're all messed up with that anyway.
Yeah, well, but here we are in the 21st century enjoying life as we should.
So, Brian, where you're a single man now, do you think we should dedicate a show some night to like a dating show or a dating game?
Hey, there's an idea.
We should do that.
Would you participate?
Radio dating usually used to be popular.
Used to be very popular.
Remember one of the Boston stations had Dick Syatt.
WRKO?
Yeah, that's right.
Is that right?
Yeah. Every Saturday, I think it was.
Saturday
My
afternoon.
friend Corporal
Yeah.
Boucher will probably call in.
And he said if the, whoa, you hear that in your headphones, Bill?
No.
No? All right, then these are just.
I've got the good headphones
These are
tonight.
deciding to not work right. All right. Anyway, Dick Syatt, he was funny. He used to always say, if everybody that says their favorite thing to do is walk on the beach, there would just be lines of people up and down the beach walking.
If you ever look at the dating ads,
Yeah.
everybody's hiking and walking through the woods. Every time I drive by a woods, I don't see
You don't see
there.
anybody. Yeah.
Nobody there, right?
Hey, you know what? We gotta take a break. Pause for the
one
cause here, and we
Well,
thank.
I want to know who the guest is going to be.
Well, okay, we'll get into that right after. It's Dan Kennedy. We'll give you more information on him right after we take a short break on the new open mic on WHAV 97.9 FM.
Open mic.
Bill Masek and the new open mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900. If you're enjoying this program, consider becoming a WHAV member right now. Just click on the membership tab at WHAV.net.
That we deliberate and achieve with wisdom and understanding, recognizing the rights of all of our citizens with full regard for the dignity and justice of the individual.
Each week, WHAV News brings you live gavel-to-gavel coverage of the Haverhill City Council. Listen to 97.9 WHAV FM each Tuesday night at 7 when the City Council is in session from the Theodore A. Pelosi Jr. City Council Chambers in City Hall. As a public service, Haverhill City Council coverage is sponsored in part by Dole, Childs, and Shaw Funeral Home.
Community Spotlight is sponsored by Unicare Life and Health Insurance Company.
Community Spotlight.
Residents of Haverhill's Mount Washington neighborhood are invited to sharpen their resume writing skills at a career workshop happening Tuesday the 12th at Fantini Bakery, 375 Washington Street. Catering to bilingual job seekers, the Mount Washington Alliance-sponsored workshop held from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. also offers job search strategies and interview tips. All who attend the Alliance's free session will be invited to practice what they've learned at the Valley Works Job Fair, June 19th at Northern Essex. The Mount Washington Alliance's workshop is free and light refreshments will be served. Someone you know is on WHAV. To submit or read your own nonprofit announcements, click on the Contact tab at WHAV.net or email news at WHAV.net. In the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, I'm Eric Scott.
Support for WHAV is brought to you by Unicare Life and Health Insurance Company. For nearly 30 years, Unicare has provided health benefits to people insured through the Group Insurance Commission. Unicare is proud to be serving over 170,000 GIC members, retirees, and their families.
Those Boston stations don't always understand weather in the Merrimack Valley. Stay informed with WAVE weather every 30 minutes, 24 hours a day on Soft Gold WHAV.
Catch the wave. WHAV. Open mic.
Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, 97.9 WHAV FM presents the new Open Mic Show with Bill Masek. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900.
And we are back on the new Open Mic on WHAV. Bill Masek here, co-host Bill Ellis also here. We're talking about open topics tonight. 978-374-1900 is the number to call. Now, in the second hour, Dan Kennedy is going to be here. And Dan is a pretty established and guy. He has done a lot of good things, and he is an associate professor of journalism at Northeastern University and a nationally known media commentator. He's been a panelist on WGBH TV's Beat the Press. He writes on the news media for WGBH News. It's all together. Oh, it's because it's a WGBHnews.org and other publications. He previously wrote a media column for The Guardian, and before that, he wrote for the Boston Phoenix. Remember when the Phoenix was like the paper?
And but you know what was good about the Phoenix? Was the ads in the back. All the people that wanted to meet other people. It was like a dating thing.
Did you ever call any of them, or
call them?
Did you contact any of them?
Several times, and there was a lot of strangers on that particular site, and then they knew it.
Yeah, well, okay, and then his website is Media Nation and can be found at dankennedy.net. So he even has his own domain. So that's a pretty established guy.
Is there a BillMasick.com?
No, there isn't.
We probably should have one.
Well, I have one as counselor, BillMasick.
Is that right?
.com, yeah. But
nothing as...
But not a personal. I don't have a
yeah,
personal.
You should, though. You have an interesting life. You should actually do that. You should put a...
well, a lot of people have told me I should write a book.
What would the book be called?
I don't know. I haven't thought about it really. And people say it, and it probably could be an interesting. I've had an interesting life. I've done a lot of different things. 7 Faces of Bill. That's kind of like the old
7 Faces of Eve.
Eve, yeah.
Well, you've had a great life. What you've told me.
Different things, yeah.
Involved in radio for many years.
Yeah, some night maybe I can be the guest. You can interview me.
I would love that.
Look
I would
at
ask
the
you
smile.
I would ask you some questions that
he likes
I would
that
say,
idea.
Mrs. Masek, don't listen to the show tonight. You may not like what you hear.
No, never. Don't worry about that.
And we'll put you on a lie detector.
Yeah.
At the same time. Hey, Billy, you know what I want to talk to you about? In every introduction that we have, and we've talked about this before, and I think we should mention again, is Edwin V. Johnson.
Yeah.
And you were a student of his. As was Tom Bergeron.
Yeah.
And give us a little bit about Edwin, because I didn't know him because I'm not from the Haverhill area.
He was like the mentor of radio. He had such a polished voice for radio. He was always perfect. He delivered the news. After he taught at high school, he was like the afternoon and evening news guy at WHAV. At the original WHAV at 1490. And Tim Coco, I think, also knew Mr. Johnson, as we all knew him, and he was a speech and English teacher at Haverhill High School, and I had him for speech. I did not have him for English, but he was just a fantastic guy. We met in the auditorium once a week, and he taught us how to articulate our voice and how to speak and how to pronounce certain words. Just real interesting. I mean, what? I can remember one of the things he recommended that you never say envelope.
Envelope.
Envelope. It was always envelope. So it was
he was
a great guy.
1947. I was looking at here, over a 34-year career, spanning 3 station owners. That's pretty. You know what I like to do if we can, and I'll throw this out to Chris if he knows, or do we have any recordings of him?
You'd have to ask Tim.
Okay.
Yeah. I would be surprised if Tim didn't have some voice work.
Well, Tim's got a lot of stuff on the YouTube website.
And we're in the Edwin V. Johnson studio.
That's why I brought it up.
Right.
And I think that's kind of a nice
nice
thing. Now, 1947, Well, how long has radio been around? 20s? Teens? 20s?
It started in the early 1900s. I don't think it really took form until maybe the 40s, I think. So he was right at the very beginning.
The infancy of radio.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just think of how popular. I mean, you really didn't have TV back then, so more
no
people listened to
radio.
radio.
People would hang around, and the family would hang around at night and listen to. And Tim plays some of these on the air. He plays the old shows.
Yeah.
The theater, radio theater.
You know what was interesting about radio, and we have stations like WBZ, 50,000 watts, KDK out of Pittsburgh, 50,000 watts. Wolfman Jack.
I remember Wolfman Jack.
He used to broadcast out of Mexico because there was no limits.
Because they have 100,000 watt stations all along the border that they broadcast into the United States.
His signal used to go up into Canada, and they say that's how he became so popular.
Yeah,
because people for a long way around, for a distance, could pick him up.
It was, I don't think he was Mexican though, but he probably worked there.
Wolfman Jack, yeah, but he looked Mexican. He has darker skin.
Yeah, a little bit, but there was a who was saying that back when he grew up, right along the it was it'll come to me. I was watching it yesterday, and he grew up on the Mexican border. Oh, one of the horse, the guy who won the race yesterday. What's his name with the white hair?
Bob
Baffert.
Yeah.
He grew up right on the border, and at the time, he said, we used to cross the border back and forth multiple times a day. We'd go over to see our friends. It was a whole different era when he grew up. And when he started, with the horses at like age 10, and he was riding him at 14. Pretty interesting.
What did you think of that race the other day?
Well, I wasn't totally surprised. Now, you thought, because you have you've been in that game a little bit.
I like the horse that finished third, and he actually coming out of the turn looked very strong.
Who was that?
Berghoff there, the full horse, or Hofbrau, or whatever his name was.
Hofberg.
Yeah, Hofberg.
Because you told me in advance that he looked good.
I think he looked good. He was bred for that distance.
Did he make it to third? Because he fell way behind.
He was third. The last 3 out of 4 Belmont Stakes winners were sired by Taproot, who was the sire of Hofberg.
But he just couldn't find the juice to get there.
Well, what's interesting is at the start of the race, the stablemate of Justify came right up and raced along his flank.
Yeah,
I thought that was very odd. I said, something don't smell right here. Well, reading the Fox News this morning, it turns out that a lot of jockeys have complained. They think he was out there as a blocking maneuver. And the owner of the horse, the other horse of the stablemate of Baffert's, was kind of upset the way that horse was raced. So, I mean, he would wanted to have a chance to win the race also.
Sure, yeah.
Because
do you think that would really happen?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah?
I definitely think something like that could happen.
They probably got that from roller derby, because that's what
I remember that.
They would do that in roller derby. One would be a blocker.
Right,
and then they'd take, usually it was the girls that I used to watch, and they would take and fling one of the girls on the team to the front. Whatever happened to that? Why is that not on TV on Saturdays anymore?
Yeah, they used to have that, and it was always fun to watch.
It was
fun
to watch. They would
fly out of the little oval that they would go around.
Yeah, they'd go right off the track. It was good.
That must have been pretty sore. I mean, it'd be like wrestling.
They had elbow pads and knee pads.
Yeah, but when they used to fly out, Billy, I mean, they used to go a distance.
Yeah, I know.
And that was, did you ever date a roller derby girl?
No, I never did. Did you?
I tried it one time.
You tried to date one? She didn't like you.
She threw me out.
She threw you out.
You remember the movie with James Caan, Rollerball?
Yeah.
That was an interesting game.
A level up, yeah.
Yeah, that was wild. But, so that Justify, they purchased him for $500,000. After the race Saturday, they valued him at between $60 and $70 million. And the question has come up, will he continue racing? Some people say, why? He has nothing else to prove.
Right.
He's 6-0. He's never been defeated.
Well, maybe he likes it.
He looks like he does like it.
Yeah,
Some
he gets out
horses
front,
really,
stays out front.
Really like that. And I was talking to a fella this morning. about champions. A friend of mine had a horse that won the Hambletonian, which is the Kentucky Derby of harness racing in New Jersey. And he told me that this particular horse who foaled on his farm, he said, Billy, when he was a baby, when he would go in the field, he always wanted to be the head of the pack.
Yeah.
So some horses just have that natural desire
Right.
to be a leader.
Right.
And Secretariat, he was the same way.
Yeah.
Very intelligent horse, and he did his thing.
Good. All right. Well, we're going to take a break now.
Sounds good.
Tis the time.
Well,
So we're going to take a break. We'll be right back on the new open mic for one more half hour of open lines and open discussion at 978-374-1900. So don't hesitate to call in, and we'll be right here on WHAV 97.9 FM.
Open mic.
Bill Masek and the new open mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900. If you're enjoying this program, consider becoming a WHAV member right now. Just click on the membership tab at WHAV.net.
It's 6:31.
Catch the wave.
Now, here's good news for you Gildersleeve fans.
Yes, folks, this is Gildersleeve. This summer, whether you're at the beach, the mountains, or right in your own backyard, you'll be able to hear us every Wednesday night at the usual time. We'll be on the air all summer.
Every Wednesday night at 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. on WHAV.
Wave weather.
Here is the wave weather forecast for Haverhill and the Merrimack Valley. For tonight, clear skies, low in the mid to upper 40s, light southwest winds. Tuesday, sunny skies, it will be breezy, high around 80, low in the lower 60s. The outlook for Wednesday, partly to mostly cloudy skies with a chance of afternoon showers and isolated thunderstorms, high in the upper 70s, low in the mid 60s. I'm WHAV meteorologist Jim Vaughn. Your next wave weather in 30 minutes.
97.9 FM, WHAV.
WHAV. Open mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, 97.9 WHAV FM presents the new Open Mic Show with Bill Masek. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900.
Okay, we are back. We were talking a little bit about the Belmont Stakes and the horse that came in second. We talked about first and third. We didn't talk about the horse that came in second, who came from the back of the pack, and his name everybody knows. That horse was named
Gronkowski.
And Gronkowski was in the stands, and he was excited, and he's a part owner of that horse.
He bought into the horse when, because the horse is from the United Kingdom, and he bought into the horse I think when he knew that the horse was going to come over, originally was going to race in the Kentucky Derby. I think he bought a piece of him the week leading up to the Derby.
Really?
And then the horse
that
contracted
close.
a fever.
When was
very close.
Was the horse always named Gronkowski, though?
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
It had his name even though he hadn't bought in.
Exactly.
They were hoping. I bet they were hoping.
Well,
we'll get some of Gronk's money, and we'll put his name on it.
Well, they did get portion of it.
Yeah.
And Gronk was there at the Belmont Stakes.
Right.
Because originally the horse was going to race in the Derby. He got a fever, so they decided not to race him.
Just like Gronk, like problem health issues. Can't play every race. Can't play every game. Can't run every race.
Well, it was interesting.
That's probably why they called the horse Gronkowski.
You think so? They knew the horse was going to be
it was
sick or
a little
ill?
lame once in a while, and
Horses get that way.
Yeah.
But Belichick was at the Belmont Stakes with his wife.
He was.
Girlfriend,
I
Linda.
didn't notice that.
Yeah, and he was there because a good friend of his owned a piece of Justify.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Now, did Baffert only own a piece of Justify?
I'm not sure if he does or not.
Or is he just a trainer? So
well, he makes a considerable amount.
Does he
of
get
training.
does he get a piece of the purse?
Oh yeah.
Even as a trainer?
Yeah, as a trainer, he does.
Okay.
So he gets a considerable amount of money per day for the horse because these people that own these horses, Justify, they paid $500,000.
So I could do this and walk around, and you think you can help me out?
I could definitely help you.
Yeah,
Help you to the,
walk around,
insane asylum.
just keep my, I got the rein right here. I'm
This-
walking.
this-
I'll walk the horse.
Yeah, you'd be a good hot walker.
Yeah,
That's what they call
is
them.
that what they call them? Hot walker.
Hot walkers, but they're not trainers. Hot walker is the guy that cools the horse out. And he walks the horse out so his muscles.
So to be a
relax and so
trainer,
forth.
do I need like a chair and a whip or something?
What do you think? You're doing lions? No. Part of the thing is being a trainer is you have to have a keen eye.
Yeah.
So when you watch these horses go around the track, you have to be able to take a look and say, he looks like he's a little sore here or a little sore there. And they'll feel the horse all over his body. You know, they'll pinch this and they'll pinch that. You know, they'll pinch the
See
skin.
if it winces or something?
Well, that happens, and they'll
Yeah.
pinch the skin to see if the horse is dehydrated.
Yeah.
Because horses can't tell us what's wrong.
Right.
And they have so many things. They have an issue they call colic.
Mr. Ed could.
Mr. Ed was tremendous.
I love that show.
I remember the episode when he
With
went to-
Wilbur.
Wilbur, hello Wilbur. When they went to Hollywood Park, and they were in the barn area, Mr. Ed and
Yeah.
his what's his name, Wilbur, and so Mr. Ed's talking to his cousin, who's a racehorse
Yeah.
that was racing that day, and Wilbur says, "What did he say?" He said, "Wilbur, he says he can win." And so they bet the horse, and the horse finishes up the track, and Mr. Ed turns to Wilbur. He goes, "He always talks a big game." So what?
Yeah.
The girl that played the wife
Yeah.
was actually from Dedham, Massachusetts.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
You got
Connie,
you got roots in Dedham.
I do have roots in Dedham.
Yeah.
In fact, I met her when I was a baby. I don't remember it. My mother used to walk from where we lived in Dorchester at the time over to South Boston to visit her father. And along Morrissey Boulevard, she would push the stroller. And Connie Hines, I believe is her name,
Yeah.
came out of Channel 5, WHDH it was at the time. And so, what a handsome little cute boy. And
You don't
and so
remember
forth.
this. You were told this.
I was told this, yeah.
Yeah.
And then years later, I was reading on famous people that were from Dedham, because I moved to Dedham when I was 12, and was Connie Hines from her. And remember Don Earl, the announcer for the Boston Bruins?
Sure.
He was from there.
Yeah.
And he had a brother named Wendell, and his brother had a tremendous bellowing voice.
Yeah.
So I could see it must have been a family trait.
Yeah, that's it's nice when you're born with great pipes, as we call it in the biz, right?
In the biz.
In the biz.
You know, and there's famous people from Haverhill. We talked about it last week with Jack Kelly
Yeah.
on that. And
Yeah.
I tell you, I was amazed to see the people that were involved. You know, they came from Macy and Leahy Clinic.
Yeah, our Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Yep, the Haverhill Hall of Fame. But
And it's too bad you will
I
never
can
be able
never
to
get
make
in
it. Unless
unless I write that book. I still got time. I got
You gonna write a
lots
book?
of tread left on the tires. I'm still going.
Are you really?
Yeah.
How many more years do you think you have left?
30.
Really?
Yeah.
I tell you what,
well, you
I'll
know-
buy you a cake if you make it another 30 years on this show.
Oh, well, you mean I have to keep working here? What if I want to not work here?
No, this is the thing.
I have to make it to an age and still work here.
You still have to work here in
Still-
another 30 years.
still donate my
and
services.
They'll change the open mic show to the feeble bill.
Yeah.
and people can watch you drool on yourself. And I
Now,
think
Bill, that's very cruel. You say things like that.
you don't think you'll ever get there. You think you'll be.
I've always
right
said
up
I
to the
want to
end?
make it to triple digits, but I'm not sure I'm going to get it. So I gave 30. I'm a little under. So I'm in my 90s at that point.
So you want to be get a century mark.
I think that's, usually it's women. My mother, God rest her soul, she passed away not last April. But I used to go almost every day. I'd try to get to the nursing home to see her because she needed constant care in the last period. You look around for men, it's like they're probably working there if you find a male, but you don't find many of them as patients because the women, they got something going, Bill.
Yeah, you know why women outlast men? Because men are married to women. And
Now that's terrible.
That's the reason why.
Yeah, that's you are terrible.
It's more welcoming them to go to the pearly gates.
Yes,
because they
okay.
figure they can get out of the marriage respectively.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, I know.
But,
But,
yeah, for
they have some genetic makeup that they usually go a little longer. Not all of them, but women in general, I'd say. Yeah.
I always get a kick out of when you'll have somebody that's 114 years old, and they'll ask a question, what's one of the secrets? And I think the last one I was watching, the woman said she gave up on men many years ago, and she has a shot of brandy every day.
Oh.
All of them seem to say they have a little shot.
Well, I've actually seen that. You should have. Usually it's wine though.
I've heard
like
wine.
a glass of wine every day.
Just the antioxidants and help
Yeah.
out and speeds up a heart a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's going to cut me off sooner because I don't drink at all.
You don't drink, so you're doomed.
I don't. No.
Well, I'll do you a favor. We'll make it 20 years then if you make it 20. I feel bad for you now.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always been the designated driver.
Is that right?
Yeah, sure. Why not? I'm naturally a little crazy, so if I started drinking, I would probably be off the to the side, off the road. So I just never. I've been around it. I'm not temperance. I don't tell people what to do, and as long as they're not interfering with my life, I might. Try to say, hey,
But where you stay
but I don't. I just let people be. That's the way I am.
Where you stay sober, and you were involved with rock and roll groups.
I've never done drugs. I've never done alcohol, and I've never smoked cigarettes except for maybe 2 when I was with my cousin in the back alleyway, in the alley in Pennsylvania. They actually called the road behind their house an alley.
I remember alleys. A lot of alleys on Beacon
It
Hill.
was just stone and dirt and stone. It wasn't paved.
So you've had the pleasure to be able to watch people and all their stupidity when they get real intoxicated.
Yeah, or I just, when I was in the rock and roll band, I would just go to my room and they'd go, to another room and they could do what they wanted to do after. But
So they would go party and you'd go watch Mr.
I'd
Ed.
watch TV. Yeah.
Wow, you're a fun guy.
I am.
It reminds me of the joke about the.
I remember when TV started going around overnight. The first place I ever saw it was in New York. New York had 24-hour television before Boston did, and then
They had cable, too,
and then
before Boston
Saturday Night Live happened, which
Right.
brought it a little later. And look at us now. We don't see the test pattern. I mean, some places I had to just listen to the test pattern and the TV going.
And what did they always do before the test pattern?
The national anthem.
National anthem.
National anthem.
And they do it in the morning.
And in the
also.
morning before they came back on.
They should actually just keep doing that. They have to play the national anthem at least once during the day.
It's not a requirement. I mean, you
Well,
can.
they should make it a requirement.
I wonder if Tim does it. We should.
We'll have
we'll
to find out.
out.
Put him on the hot seat.
Yeah,
I
right.
tell you, that would be patriotic.
It would. Yeah.
You know what's aggravating?
Tim's
is
pretty
the
patriotic. He's
emergency
very
broadcast
traditional,
system.
patriotic.
He is very
He is,
patriotic.
yeah.
The emergency broadcast system
EBS.
always comes on and they test it when I'm watching something that I like.
Right. Right when you're at an
Here it
important
is.
part.
The guy pulls out the gun. He says, "I'm gonna." Then this is a test of the emergency broadcast system. And then when you come back, they go to a
They
commercial
don't
break.
schedule. Usually today they don't get scheduled, so they don't wait until something's over at an appropriate time. The system is set on automatic, and those tests run. Most of them run. Well, you have to run them just for the station, but also you run them that come from like the National Weather Service or the primary station in the area. That they have control over the EAS system. It's not EBS anymore. EAS.
So
And-
when you
and
were
they-
at
and
radio
they
station,
just-
so
they
you
just-
don't control when it's played. They do it.
It just when you don't know it's even coming. You don't get an advance warning.
Okay.
So you can change the programming so it's okay if it gets taken over. No, it just gets taken over. It's seized, as they call it. It seizes your station,
Do they ever?
and you can't even turn it down.
Do they ever? They never notify you ahead of time that
No,
we're going to do it Friday afternoon.
Well, you know that there's going to be like one test a month or one test a week, that kind of thing. But they're even required to rotate the days and the time of day.
You know, I was reading Queen Elizabeth that they have a thing set up for her when she passes away. They won't say her name, but they'll put the word out to radio stations and TV stations, and the code is London Bridge has fallen.
Wow.
That's the code, and they'll know that it's time. Each radio station and TV station already has pre-recorded a memorial, basically, to remember the life of
Well,
the
a
Queen
lot of
and-
our celebrities, even in this country, they've already put together the packages
Right.
of biographical information about their life.
And there's a blue light in every...
You think there's one on me someplace?
There is someplace. I saw it the other day. It's a half a minute of the life of Bill Masick. But it's
Thank
what's
you.
interesting. There's a blue light
Yes.
on each radio station and TV station. When it goes on, they know that there's something going on with the royal family.
This is in England.
It's England. It's a
Yeah.
tip-off.
Well, they own the whole broadcast system. So, remember it's the BBC, it's all controlled by the government. And so what they started, decades ago now, but they started, the pirate radio came from ships. That's where that word pirate came from originally, because they started with ships just offshore, and they weren't controlled by the government. Kind of like fishing beyond the
12 miles?
the line, yeah. Hey, we got to take another break.
Sounds good.
All right, and Dan Kennedy is, I understand, in the wings, and he will be in the 7 o'clock hour, and we should have a great conversation with Dan. And we're right here on the new open mic on a Monday night on WHAV 97.9 FM.
Open mic.
Bill Masick and the new open mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900. If you're enjoying this program, consider becoming a WHAV member right now. Just click on the membership tab at WHAV.net.
Are you listening to WHAV on cable television? If so, join WHAV in thanking the board, staff, and members of your local public access channel.
Catch the wave.
On air or online, 97.9 WHAV serves you. Twice an hour weekdays, keep up to date with exclusive local news and weather. Find out about civic events on Community Spotlight every quarter hour. And better prepare with WAVE weather every 30 minutes. Mass Moments, Melinda's Garden Moment, Soundbeat, and Insight Daily complete the spectrum. Hear classic comedy and drama 7 nights a week at 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. Finally, a unique blend of rock and roll hits from the 60s, 70s, and 80s round out the entertainment. Stay with 97.9 WHAV, the only behavioral-based news source.
Catch the wave. WHAV. Open mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, 97.9 WHAV FM presents the new Open Mic Show with Bill Masick. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900.
All right, here we are again. Bill Masick and Bill Ellis on the new open mic show on WHAV. We will gladly take your calls until 7 o'clock. Open lines, open topics, 978-374-1900.
We'd like to have some female listeners call.
Yeah, that would be nice. But let me first say that Chris, our producer, as you heard, came in and said that Mark called in and said that just before 6 o'clock every morning, WHAV plays the national anthem. So
Yeah, that is good.
all right, good
Congratulations
job,
to
Tim.
Tim.
I appreciate you doing that. I think that's wonderful, very, very patriotic, and I think it's appropriate. That is another tradition. He's very, the whole Edwin Johnson studio. He's very traditional to what radio was. Probably will go back, say, decades ago, before it became corporate radio. And that happened in 96, the Telecommunications Act of 96, primarily written by Ed Markey. And it kind of changed the playing field forever for what radio content and management was all about. So
Well,
that's why.
It'd be nice to hear it more often.
Well, I think so, yeah. Otherwise we'll say the stations that don't do it are taking a knee, or they're staying in the locker room. Come on out.
Yeah, they should come up.
Well, I mean, I just, I like football a lot, and I don't need to have people, presenting their personal opinions, political opinions, before they play a sport. I just don't know how they tie in together. Those guys could take their own time and do it, and I would have no problem with it. But I think it's very unpatriotic for them to do that. To go against playing of the national anthem.
Well, did you see what Donald Trump came out this past week, and he said, if you know of any injustices,
yes,
and the reason why you're going taking a knee,
talking to the players,
bring it to my attention, and we'll definitely take a look at it.
Yeah.
How many people do you think are going to come forward now?
I don't think any.
No.
Little to none.
If there is, it's going to be very few.
Little to none.
Because they're more interested in the image that it projects for them, that they're the good guys and they're trying to protect the world, versus what he has asked for them to come forward.
Right.
And he has shown in some of the pardons that he's given that if he feels there's been an injustice done, he pardons. I mean, that lady, a black woman,
right? He doesn't look at political party. No. He doesn't look at color of skin.
No.
He looks at what happened, and was there an injustice?
And the media now, the liberal media, has come across and saying that he's basically spitting on the Constitution by doing that. But if you take a look at the pardons that Bill Clinton has given,
right,
it all had money behind it.
Right.
So if you came forward, there was a fellow that could pardon. And that fellow went to Hillary Clinton's brother, who was an attorney, paid a $400,000 legal fee so he would present to the president his case, and Bill Clinton turned around and he pardoned him. Well, you think that $400,000 stayed with that particular attorney, or you think maybe some of it seeped over to his wife Hillary?
Yeah, you think?
Now, did you see about what's been happening with the various Democratic committees throughout the United States, each state, funneling money back to Hillary? Did you read that this week?
No, I haven't seen
read
that.
about that, because what they were doing is...
but that happened during the election.
During the election,
yeah,
right.
No, I heard that a while ago.
Yeah,
that
that's illegal.
They were supposed to, it was like a setup. The money was donated in mass to the Democratic National Committee,
right.
And then they had to distribute it to the states,
right.
And then the states sent it back to Hillary, which they weren't supposed to do.
Right.
Yeah. But you know what? It's no big deal. That's
for all the things
we're
that
not
she's
gonna,
done.
we're
when
not
is
gonna,
something going to come forward? Now the
DOJ
is supposed to
she
come
has
out
a
with
different
something
set
in the
of
next
laws
week.
that protect her.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried about it anymore. I don't believe anything's ever going to happen, and it's just I'm almost tired of the digging and all the information coming out, and the Justice Department just is it's almost criminal. It is criminal.
It is criminal.
It is
what's
criminal.
Going on.
The way they handle themselves, and I have a good feeling that if you could get people probably on truth serum in Washington to say whether or not they liked President Trump, I'd say the vast majority would say that they didn't like Trump and they want him out. They want him gone. So, I mean, Robert Mueller, they talk about, his past. He's not a nice man, period.
Right.
He left the guys in Boston in jail that it was the reports had been written in the FBI, and he was in charge of the Boston FBI, and it was written that they did not commit the crimes. And he knew it, and when asked if they should be released, he said no.
Yeah, that was wrong. The other thing that's wrong is when Comey had basically already written that Hillary was, wasn't involved in anything negative when they talked about the emails, and this was before she was even interviewed. So he basically already made his decision up before they went through the whole process. That's wrong, Billy.
It's been so disheartening to see the way Washington is working in the Justice Department.
And just think
and they won't give information.
Well,
to
eventually
like
they're going to
Nunez.
have to, because times are changing. And
maybe there's going to be a big building fire or something. The information, sorry, it's all burnt, gone.
Most everything has been recorded someplace.
They use bleach bit. Who used that?
Yeah,
who used that bleach bit on
your girlfriend Hillary?
Yeah.
Now, why would you use bleach bit and destroy your server if you only had emails about yoga in your daughter's wedding?
Yeah, that's right. I know.
Now,
yeah.
do you think?
Or my cell phones. How about breaking my cell phone? And
you smash it up. How many people
smash it up with a hammer?
If she was kind, there were programs where you can donate your cell phones to people that don't have them.
Correct.
And she decided that she wanted to break hers up with a hammer.
Right.
Well, Now look.
What do you think about Jeff Sessions, our Attorney General? Why isn't he more aggressive?
You've commented, and
I have
other
a
people
feeling
that have commented
that
that
he's
I've heard
afraid
that
of something.
There's something that they have on him, and he's afraid to come
Yeah,
forward.
or he's been threatened, one or the other. There's
Yeah.
something they know, because he was in Washington for like 20 years
Yeah.
as a senator, and
I think
so
it's
he's
very hard
he's part of the swamp.
He is part of the swamp.
You know?
I think it's very hard for somebody to go there for that period of time and come out clean.
I hate to hear that, but they say that the lobbyists really run Washington D.C.
I think you're right.
And that's unfortunately who ends up being able to push the buttons in a sense. Even on a roll call vote, they're really being influenced to
It's all about
push
the
the
money.
buttons. Yeah. So
It's all about the money.
well, anyway, it has been really good. We got 5 minutes left. If anybody wants to call in, they better call now, because next hour we're going to be talking to Dan Kennedy, and he has a lot of opinion on some things that are going on too, like his new book, which we're going to be discussing. Dan's new book is called "The Return of the Moguls: How Jeff Bezos and John Henry are
Washington
remaking
Post and Boston Globe.
newspapers for the 21st century." So we're going to dig into that, because I find that very interesting, because I just, I've always got the newspaper. I just recently switched over to getting it digitally. I always got that as part of my 7-day paper.
Yeah.
But I switched over to just getting it digitally, and now I find I always had it, but now I find myself reading it a little deeper on my computer screen, and it's interesting. But it's a little cheaper, but I get Sunday only, and they give you the other 6 days included, so you actually get all 7 days digitally. And
Do you just buy it for the obituaries?
well, that's one of the important things, that I would like to know, who has passed, that
Yeah.
I would like to, maybe pay my respects. That's one of the important things.
My mother's 89, God bless her, and she said when she picks up the newspaper and looks at the obituaries, if her name isn't there, she knows she has to do housework that day.
That's true.
It
yeah.
is.
That's a good positive thought with a little humor in it.
In it, the
Yeah,
89, she still has a
I
little...
think humor, which I think you and I both have kind of a different kind of humor. We're kind of dry, and you got to think about some of the things we say, but we're really saying them in jest, even though we're not smiling. But I think humor, as I've heard many times, creates positive endorphins. That's how I'm going to get to 3 figures. That's how I'm going to get to be 100, because I'm going to keep smiling and laughing all the way.
So then when you do that, I will write a book about it. I'll call Laughing His Way to Hades.
Oh, no, there's no Hades.
There isn't any Hades?
No, I don't think. Didn't the Pope say something about?
Yeah,
he recently said that
question
there's
him.
heaven. They was asked if there was anything in like a limbo or something in the middle there, and he said, nope, those people just disappear. They don't get into heaven. But so I
So
don't
does
know.
everybody go to heaven?
I don't know. I'm gonna go. I mean, I'm a good guy. I've been good, clean all my life. If not, by this time, somebody would have had something on me, because being in public life. Talk about living in a glass house.
So you would be good then. So if you had you'd be like Mr. Jordan on Heaven Can Wait. You ever see the old movie? So you would be able to be the designated driver to take people up to heaven because you don't drink.
I would take that job. Sure, I'd love that.
Would you like to be a guardian angel?
Oh, geez, that's a tough question. I've never thought about that. If they want me to do that, I'll do it.
I think that would be
If
interesting.
St. Peter says, Bill, you're going to be a guardian angel, I'll just say, okay.
And who was the most famous guardian angel?
Curtis Sliwa.
Yeah, Curtis. Curtis is he's not a guardian angel, but he's, what do they call that other angel that he is, or urban angel or whatever, that he works in the cities. He's got to be the guardian angel on the show on their Christmas time. It's a Wonderful Life.
With Jimmy Stewart? Yeah.
It's a Wonderful Life.
Probably so. Yeah.
And every time bell rings, what happens? An angel gets his wings.
An angel gets his wings. That's right. Yeah. I watched that last year too.
No.
Yeah. Well, we're approaching the finish line here. Anything else you want to add? No?
Singapore is taking place
Singapore
right
is,
now.
yeah, that's interesting.
So it should be interesting
We'll see
what comes
happens
out in the
tomorrow.
next couple days.
Actually, it's tonight, I think, at 9 o'clock, because they're
Yeah.
12 hours ahead.
And if Donald Trump comes back and he has a signed treaty ending the Korean
I don't
conflict,
think he'll have much signed, or I think he'll have a few key points, but I think it's going to take a number of meetings.
yeah, you could be right with that. But what I like about him is speak softly but carry a big stick. He's basically said, if I don't like what's going on, I'm walking out.
Right, he'll
And
know
I've
in a
got
minute and a half.
300 sanctions that I'm
Right.
going to levy.
Yeah.
And it basically will bring North Korea to their
Yeah,
knees.
no, I hope he accomplishes what he's out to do, because it will be good for not just our country, but good for the world.
Exactly.
And on that, we're going to take a break for the top of the hour news and information, and we'll be right back. And at that time, we will have our guest in studio, Dan Kennedy, and you're just going to have to, if you haven't heard already, stick around to find out what we're going to be talking about with Dan, our next guest, right here on the new Open Mic Show on WHAV 97.9 FM.
Open mic.
Bill Masek and the new Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900. If you're enjoying this program, consider becoming a WHAV member right now. Just click on the membership tab at WHAV.net.
It's 7:01.
WHAV LP Haverhill.
Here's what's happening in local news. City Council is scheduled to vote Tuesday on whether to accept a school budget that's $425,000 out of balance. At a public hearing last week on the school department budget, school committee members reaffirmed their support for spending $425,000 more than the mayor has allocated for fiscal year 2019. However, Mayor Fiorentini repeated his intention to present to City Council his original budget of just over $84 million, rather than the $84.43 million the school committee approved. The mayor contends the city charter allows the council to cut the budget, but not add to his bottom line. City Council review of the budget takes place at 7 p.m. Tuesday in the City Council office, room 204 at Haverhill City Hall. WHAV will be broadcasting that meeting live. Fiorentini's $84 million budget for fiscal year 2019, which begins July 1st, represents a 6.3% increase over the $79 million allocated to run the schools in the year that ends June 30th. School committee members spent more than 2 hours during last week's public hearing combing through the spending plan to ensure that priorities identified at the last regular meeting were covered in the document. Specifically, $177,559 to pay for a vocational program that focuses on technology and other disciplines that will prepare students for in-demand jobs, and $127,000 for early education programs. In both cases, the money for the program was taken from the $425,000 the committee is seeking, but has no guarantee it will receive. To guarantee fundings for those two programs, the committee transferred $137,000 from the school's gas and electric account, $10,000 from the superintendent's salary account, $60,000 from the autism teacher's account, $60,000 from the classroom teacher's account, and $40,000 from the ROTC account. Committee members clarified that no teaching positions are being eliminated. Rather, they reduce the number of proposed additional teachers by 2. The other accounts showed historically lower spending than what was budgeted, and the superintendent's salary account still carried Superintendent James Scully's current salary of $210,000, rather than the new superintendent Margaret Marada's salary of $190,000. These are the expenditures school committee members want to make with the additional $425,000 they seek. 2 teachers to help reduce class sizes at $120,000. 1 autism teacher at $60,000, a literacy coach at $60,000, a math teacher at Constantino, and an ELL teacher at Tilton School, each at $60,000. NEASC accreditation committee visit $20,000, and literary and science specialist for professional development $45,000. Haverhill's Trinity Stadium got a touch of NFL greatness Sunday during the Haverhill Police Department's annual Celebrity Softball Classic, beating out New England Patriots' Fred Smerlas and Steve Diassi in a final score of 12-10. Vets Smerlas and Diassi appeared alongside former fullback Patrick Pass, former offensive tackle Max Lane, and current Patriots guard Jason King, among others. Smerlas lent the All-Stars a hand by taking the mound for several innings, but deferred to younger Haverhill flag football players to run the bases on his behalf. The Haverhill home team finished the 6-inning strongs, with Officer Ruben Jimenez scoring the team's winning run.
It was good. It was a lot of fun, though. We made a bunch of runs and everything. I think everybody played well.
Jimenez participated along with officers Jared Brady, Justin Graham, Carlos Arriaga, and Brittany Birch. Eric McKinnon served as team captain. Nicole Donnelly was behind the plate. Tiffany Maldonado and other department staffers ran a concession stand throughout the game. Mr. Diassi has played as a member of the pro team for several years and told WHAV he's always happy to return to Haverhill.
You know what? They always put a good squad up against us, but they're all here for the same reason we are. It's to try to find a way to help out the community and the opportunity we get. And the police have been great in the community, and anything we can do to help their efforts out is just the tip of the iceberg.
Remember, WHAV is the only Haverhill-based news source. There's always more at WHAV.net. From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, I'm Eric Scott.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Kevin McAleese. President Trump and North Korea's leader prepare to meet for historic talks in Singapore as the Trump administration says complete denuclearization remains the objective. The US leader slams America's closest allies in a series of angry tweets after he refused to sign a joint communique during a contentious G7 summit. And the US imposes sanctions on a group of Russian technology companies and individuals who they accuse of malicious cyber activity.
Wave weather.
Here's the wave weather forecast for Haverhill and the Merrimack Valley. For tonight, clear skies, low in the mid to upper 40s, light southwest winds. Tuesday, sunny skies, it will be breezy, high around 80, low in the lower 60s. The outlook for Wednesday, partly to mostly cloudy skies with a chance of afternoon showers and isolated thunderstorms, high in the upper 70s, low in the mid 60s. I'm WHAV meteorologist Jim Vaughn. Your next wave weather in 30 minutes.
For more in-depth coverage of the news, visit WHAV's website at WHAV.net. Broadcasting on the Armstrong FM system, this is 97.9 WHAV.
Catch the wave, WHAV. Merrimack Valley. Open mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, 97.9 WHAV FM presents the new Open Mic Show with Bill Masek. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900.
Here we are back on the new Open Mic. I'm Bill Masek, and my co-host is Bill Ellis, and our guest is Dan Kennedy. Dan Kennedy is an associate professor of journalism at Northeastern University and a nationally known media commentator, a panelist on WGBH-TV, Beat the Press, and he writes on the news. He writes on the news media for WGBHnews.org and other publications. He previously wrote a media column for The Guardian, and before that, the paper that everybody loved was the Boston Phoenix. And I don't know whatever happened to that. Maybe you can tell us.
We can talk about that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But and he has a website called Media Nation. And you can also find him at dankennedy.net. So with that introduction, let's start talking about your new book, or do you want to talk about what happened to Boston Phoenix first?
Well, you brought it up. Let's talk about the Boston Phoenix. Actually, just a couple of weeks ago, we said goodbye to Stephen Mindich, who was the founder of the Phoenix,
Right.
founder of the paper that became the Phoenix. He had been quite sick for a few years and passed away. But, I mean, the book we're going to talk about is about the business of journalism, and the Phoenix is kind of a classic example of what happened. The Phoenix was supported by pages and pages of ads. A lot of them were classified ads. Our band needs a bass player. We need a roommate. I want a girlfriend. And all of those.
So we were talking about, they used to have odd ads too about girlfriend, boyfriend, and
sure,
all the strangos.
And of course, club listings and all of that. And all of those went away to Craigslist and Facebook. And
That's what I was going to say.
everything
That's like
else.
Craigslist now.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. At the same time, it was a free paper, a free website. In 2013, when the Phoenix went under, it still had 130,000 readers, which is about the same as it ever was.
Wow.
But all the sources of revenue had disappeared.
No, Mindich went into radio, too.
He had a terrific independent radio station, WFNX.
Yeah.
He had other Phoenixes. At one time, he had them in Portland, Worcester, and Providence.
Right.
He had magazines. It was an empire.
It was.
And the changes in the business really hollowed it out and left him with, in the end, nothing left to his media empire.
How far down the road do you see newspapers disappearing?
It's funny. I'm not sure what you mean. Do you mean print newspapers?
Print newspaper seems to be dying.
Yeah. Well, if you'd asked me 12 years ago, I would have said print newspapers would be gone by now. And they're still very much with us. And they're still more lucrative than digital. So I think that print newspapers will be around as long as people are willing to pay a premium for that experience. But I do think that most of the reading is already taking place on digital, and that's going to be
Right.
even more so.
Now, isn't part of the reason they're surviving is because of classifieds and also public notice advertising, required notices? That the state of Massachusetts requires that you use your local paper of record.
Yes.
And Maine, I believe, has changed that. I think they're the only state that I believe has changed that it can be posted digitally. And in this state, I think it would be very hard for the legislature to get the votes because of the lobbying and just the power of the press in Massachusetts to flip to a digital publication. But I think when you look at the population versus the circulation, many more people would have access and probably read those announcements that have to be published, whether it be a foreclosure, whether it be all kinds of things that are even our city ordinances have to get published. I think that there would be many more people that would access them digitally than are going to pay to maybe find something of interest in the paper today.
Right. Well, I don't think legal notices are what is keeping newspapers alive. I mean, it is an important small source of revenue. One of the arguments against letting legal notices go to an all-digital format is that somebody can reach in and change them.
Ooh, yeah, we don't want to see that happen.
No.
Yeah.
So when you do put them in print, there is a legal record of this.
Correct.
That can't be altered.
So I think they'll be around for a while. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, and they're finding other creative ways. They're doing special publications for the different communities, and they're printing little books and that kind of stuff.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
They're doing
Well,
anything.
Are there age
Speaking about-
brackets, though? I mean, if you find that people in a certain age bracket read newspapers versus 49 years old versus 19, I mean, how many young people read newspapers today?
I think that is a real challenge. Young people tend to get their news pretty much exclusively from their phone. It doesn't mean that young people aren't conscious of quality. I find that my students are very conscious of quality, but it's got to come to them through their phone or they're not going to read it.
But see, you're teaching so-called educated kids versus those that do not go to college are basically considering their phone the Bible on what's coming across.
Right, but at the same time, I mean, one of the things I talk about in the book is the mobile strategy that that some of the papers are taking. And the Washington Post has had a lot of success in getting a millennial audience to read the Washington Post on their phones. The Globe, it's funny. The Globe has bet the farm on digital, and yet to this point, they don't have a real digital app for mobile.
I get breaking news from them all the time, though, and
yeah.
that kind of stuff. They have told me things first.
They're good with that, and their website is designed in such a way that it adjusts itself to whatever device you're using. So it actually looks pretty good on a phone, but it's kind of slow on a phone. It's not the same good experience that you get with a specially designed app.
Yeah.
And you know the thing, too, about a newspaper, Billy, is when you're on a train, you can hide behind a newspaper versus your little app.
That's right.
Yeah, you would want to do that.
Of course I would. With
Yeah.
a face like this. You know what's interesting, too, is when you're on some newspapers, you get 5 free readings before they turn around and they want you to subscribe. But all you have to do is basically clean your cookies, and it eliminates that, so they think you're on fresh again.
Interesting.
Well, that's right. And I mean, I think that what newspapers are trying to do is they're trying to do 2 things. They want to make it inconvenient for you not to pay, and they want to make you feel guilty not to pay.
Mhm.
And so if they put you in the position where you're clearing out cookies so that you can keep reading for free, that works on both levels. It's a little bit of a pain, and you should feel a little bit guilty.
Well, even
Not me.
even right here at WHAV, Tim has a registered nonprofit organization, which the FCC requires to have an LPFM. But he also has a great digital product that he puts out online on top of delivering that news on the radio and on the internet every day. So
There's a lot of good stuff on
he's covering a lot of
WHAV.net.
bases. Yeah, absolutely. And we hope that people do at least become members here.
Right.
That's their way of paying and help keep this station on the air.
Help you
We're going
get
to take a
paid,
short
too.
break right now, though, because we'll have to pause for the cause. We're talking with Dan Kennedy, and we're going to start talking about his new book when we come back after a short break right here on the new open mic on WHAV 97.9 FM.
Open mic.
Bill Masek and the new open mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900. If you're enjoying this program, consider becoming a WHAV member right now. Just click on the membership tab at WHAV.net.
If you want to know what's going on at WHAV, sign up for the free monthly Wavelengths newsletter online at WHAV.net.
Catch the wave.
Hi, Tom Bergeron here. I started at WHAV in 1972. And look, WHAV's still here, but it won't be if you don't help support it. Go to WHAV.net. Become a contributor. Keep us going.
Community Spotlight.
Haverhill seniors are invited to take part in a gentle movement to music workout on Wednesdays and Fridays, 9 to 10 a.m. at the Welcome Street Citizen Center. The group class is led by Heather True and is set to music from the 1950s. Each class is $2 with the first class offered free. No pre-registration is necessary. Call Kathy or Rita at 978-374-2390 for more information. Someone you know is on WHAV. To submit or read your own nonprofit announcements, click on the Contact tab at WHAV.net or email news@WHAV.net. In the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, I'm Eric Scott.
Open mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, 97.9 WHAV FM presents the new Open Mic Show with Bill Masek. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900.
Back with Dan Kennedy, our guest this hour here on the new Open Mic Show. Dan, you have a new book. I have it in my hand.
Hold it up to the
I'll
camera,
hold it
Will.
up to the camera, and it's called "The Return of the Moguls." And then the subtext here says how Jeff Bezos and John Henry are remaking newspapers for the 21st century. And what made you decide to look at this and then write about it?
The idea for the book literally came together in one weekend in August of 2013. What happened was an editor, my editor at University Press in New England, had been kicking around some ideas with me. And on a Friday afternoon, we learned that John Henry, the principal owner of the Red Sox, was going to buy the Boston Globe from the New York Times Company. And 3 days after that, we learned that Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, was going to buy the Washington Post from the legendary Graham family. Now, in order to, as I tell my students, in order to have a trend story, you need three. So at the same time, there was a young entrepreneur named Aaron Kushner who had actually tried to buy the Globe a couple years earlier. He had bought the Orange County Register in the summer of 2012, and he was getting rave reviews for the way he was building up the Register.
In California?
In California. So I said, look, we've got these three rich guys who probably are going to have some interesting ideas. Let's follow them. And for a while, the idea really wasn't any more than that. What I finally came to realize, and what is the theme of the book in a lot of ways, is that all three of them came on the scene at the point at which we were beginning to realize that free news on the internet was never going to work. It wasn't a bad idea at the time. People thought there'd be all this multimedia advertising so you could give away the news. It didn't happen for a variety of reasons that we can get into. But essentially, I look at how all three of them pursued a strategy of getting the readers to start paying for the news.
So do you think that, like the millennials, for example, are they getting their news from the internet rather than a newspaper, or are they looking at a newspaper on the internet?
I think they do both.
Yeah.
Sure, they do both. And increasingly, there have been signs that younger people have been more willing to pay for the news in the last few years than they had been previously. First of all, it's become easier. It used to be difficult to pay for the news online, so a lot of places didn't do it. Also, they've become accustomed to paying for things.
I think we're all getting used to
You know what
paying
you should
for things.
do?
They pay for Netflix, they pay
Yeah.
for Spotify, they pay for Apple Music.
Here's a little test that you should give your students. You should say to them, tomorrow I want you to come in and read a news article that you find interesting. See how many of them come in with a newspaper, how many of them come in with a tablet.
There you go. Well, none of them will come in with a print newspaper, I guarantee.
That should tell you something.
Well, I wouldn't come in with a print newspaper either, and I'm a lot older than you are.
How old are you?
I'm 61.
Well, I'll be 61 in July. So
well,
that makes me feel good. I look young,
good.
Bill.
Okay,
Now, how
there you
many?
go.
How 80 what? How would you say
Yeah.
80 what for him?
No, there you go.
Yeah, thanks.
I think I'm probably the oldest person.
No, I got a few years on.
Oh,
that.
okay. Okay.
Yeah, but I think that it is generational to a point. What's going on? We're trying to keep up. We weren't brought up with it though. Kids today are brought up. They're in their cradle and they're holding a little cell phone.
That's
a lot
right.
of people.
Yeah.
So it's like they're. I could do better if the cell phone had flippers on the side because I grew up with pinball machines.
Well, you know what's
Right?
interesting is newspaper, though, Billy, is a lot handier than cell phones and tablets and so forth.
It's true.
Because newspapers, if you're out of toilet paper, newspapers, they used to wrap fish in it. There was a lot of things that they used to use outside of just reading the newspaper.
Right. And the best thing about reading online rather than reading the actual paper, you don't have to wash the ink off your hands when you're done.
That's
No.
right.
But the fun thing that with the newspaper that you can't do with a tablet or a phone? Remember Play-Doh? They used to put it on
Oh,
the
yeah,
thing and
you-
it would
you
come right
pull
on
the impressions off.
Pressure right
Yep.
off, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, John Henry, when he bought the Globe,
I don't think they make Play-Doh anymore either. Do
I think they do, yeah.
Do they?
They
Okay.
might,
do.
yeah.
When John Henry bought the Boston Globe for the New York Times. This
Yes.
is my Boston accent, Boston Globe. He paid it for considerably less than what the Times purchased it for.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, the value of newspapers has collapsed. The New York Times, when the New York Times Company bought the Globe from the Taylor family in 1993, they paid $1.1 billion, which was half the stock market valuation of the Times Company at that time. And people at the Globe get very defensive. They'll say the Times Company actually did fine with the Globe for a long time. They made a lot of money up until about 2005. Then things went south very quickly. John Henry paid $70 million, and he just got $80 million for the property that the Globe used to be located
Real
on.
estate, yeah.
So, essentially he got the paper for free. Now, he's lost money on it. He put a lot of money into a new printing plant in Taunton that got off to a very rocky start and has actually hurt the Globe from a business point of view, although things are getting better now.
Now, didn't the Boston Globe print the Boston Herald also?
Well, that's the thing. The Globe opened a new printing plant in Taunton just about a year ago, and it wasn't ready. And so the Globe was late. They had to set the deadline so early that they weren't even getting early scores from sports the night before.
So kind of the Dewey wins scenario?
Yeah, exactly. And they also printed the Boston Herald, USA Today, local edition of the New York Times. And because the Taunton plant got off to such a slow start, they've lost some of that business. When the Herald was recently sold by Pat Purcell to Digital First Media, the first thing they did was take it to the Providence Journal. So they lost the Herald. USA Today is gone now. So some of the plans that John Henry had to try to turn around the Globe as a business have, at the very least, been put on hold for another year or two.
Now, the Boston Herald filed for bankruptcy.
Yes.
Now, I mean, is that a telltale sign of where the industry is going?
I would have to say no. I'm not hugely optimistic about these things. I'm somewhat optimistic. But the Boston Herald there was no city as small as Boston that still had an independent second daily newspaper. So I think that was inevitable. At some point, they were going to run out of luck.
How do you feel about the way papers have taken a side, left or right, in a lot of ways? Do you think that that's a problem? Do you think it'll ever become just reporting of news and stop editorializing in the stories chosen or the way stories are written?
Well, we really see these things go in waves. Certainly back when every city had 4, 5, 6 papers.
What were some of the Boston papers? I remember there was the Traveler, the Record American, the Herald, the Globe.
I remember the Record American when I was a kid.
Yeah.
You go back for the better part of the century, you had the Boston Post, which at one time was the biggest and best paper in Boston. And what you had when you had all these papers was each of them pursue a different audience. So
Okay.
you did kind of have this breakdown of this paper is for Democratic working class readers. This paper is for Republican blue bloods. And as most cities became one newspaper towns, you started to lose that, and papers began to take a position that, well, we're going to be very fair and balanced and try to appeal to everybody. Now, I think what's happened with the internet is that people do feel like that they have to define an audience because everybody's sort of in the same mix now, and so you have to try to appeal to a certain type of reader. By the way, this never stopped in the UK. In the UK, all the papers appeal to different audiences,
groups, yeah.
Liberal, conservative, whatever.
I just heard a very interesting statistic over the last week that Facebook has lost I think they went from like 70 or 75% of the millennials. They're down to like 30% because the millennials are going over to Instagram.
Right.
Which is owned by Facebook.
But I think they want to separate from their parents or the old, because almost everybody has a Facebook page now, so they're looking for their own little niche.
Yeah, my students don't use Facebook much.
Yeah.
They really don't.
But everybody thinks Facebook, and it's not hitting everybody anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think even without all the problems that they've had recently, Facebook kind of hit their peak about a year ago,
Yeah,
and
okay.
they're kind of leveling off now. They're so enormous that I don't really know that there's anything that would get them in real trouble.
I'm not worried about them going bankrupt, that's for sure.
No, I wouldn't worry about them going bankrupt.
It'll be a while. Now tell me about Jeff Bezos, because he's an interesting guy too. That
Amazon.
I have. Yeah, he's Mr. Amazon.
He is Mr. Amazon.
But he got into what is he? He is the wealthiest guy on earth. I think, right?
He is. He bought the Post for $250 million. He found it in a pocket of a spare pair of pants. But it was just nothing to him. And he owns it personally. The problem with the Graham family ownership of the Post is that the day that they sold it, Don Graham, who was the head of the company at that time, said, "We're profitable. We are making a profit." But they were a publicly traded company. The Grahams had structured things so that they controlled the voting shares of the stock, but they were a publicly traded company. They had certain obligations to their shareholders, and they said, "We're profitable, but we can't invest. And we really don't want to just preside over years of decline." So Jeff Bezos comes in. He holds it as a private holding, as John Henry does with the Globe. And he started expanding. He inherited a newsroom of 560 people. Today it's nearing 800.
So the Post has increased that much?
The size of the newsroom has increased quite a bit.
Wow.
And the thing is, people think, well, what is Bezos' secret sauce? You'd think it's all that money. It actually isn't. He runs it as a real business. Yes, he's boosted the size of the Post to about 800. The New York Times is still about 1,300. And if Bezos wanted to, he could have said, well, I'll have 1,500. Yeah. But he wants to turn the Post into a real profitable business.
And you say in your book that Jeff Bezos has largely kept his word about his plans for the Washington Post. And is that a surprise to you? And can you give a few examples of what you were talking about?
I think that when Bezos bought the Post, a lot of people thought that he was going to somehow use it to advance Amazon's interests.
Yeah.
And he's really left it alone completely. Not only has he left the newsroom alone, which is what you'd hope from an owner, he's even left the opinion pages alone. And it's fine for an owner to mess around with the opinion pages. Certainly John Henry has done that with the Globe. He seems to be interested in the technology side of it. The Post has terrific mobile apps. They have a great website.
And he has management that he lets them do their job, and he kind of is a hands-off kind of guy?
He inherited the editor, the chief technologist, the editorial page editor, left them all in place. Now he has conference calls with them every other week. But what he has done is he's turned the Post into a national digital first organization. It used to be much more of a regional paper with some national interest. And he's leveraged it with Amazon in some very interesting ways.
It is interesting.
Now, the Hearst family, they still involved? I mean, at one time, I think they were probably one of the largest in the United States.
I'm sorry, which? Oh,
Hearst.
The Hearst family.
Yes.
The Hearsts is more of a magazine company now than a newspaper company, although they do still own some newspapers. And their magazines, you know, don't ask me for a title, but their magazines have a reputation for being pretty good. And chain ownership of newspapers tends to be a real problem, but the Hearst papers have a reputation of running them better than some of the other chains do.
Interesting. Hey, we got to take another quick break. We're going to be back with more with Dan Kennedy and discussing his new book, The Return of the Moguls, and a whole lot of other things. And so don't go anywhere. Just stay right here on the new Open Mic Show on WHAV 97.9 FM.
Open mic.
Bill Masek and the new Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900. If you're enjoying this program, consider becoming a WHAV member right now. Just click on the membership tab at WHAV.net.
It's 7:34.
97.9 FM, WHAV.
Catch the wave.
On air or online, 97.9 WHAV serves you. Twice an hour weekdays, keep up to date with exclusive local news and weather. Find out about civic events on Community Spotlight every quarter hour. And better prepare with WAVE weather every 30 minutes. Mass Moments, Melinda's Garden Moment, Soundbeat, and Insight Daily complete the spectrum. Hear classic comedy and drama 7 nights a week at 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. Finally, a unique blend of rock and roll hits from the 60s, 70s, and 80s round out the entertainment. Stay with 97.9 WHAV, the only Haverhill-based news source.
Wave weather.
Here's the wave weather forecast for Haverhill and the Merrimack Valley. For tonight, clear skies, low in the mid to upper 40s, light southwest winds. Tuesday, sunny skies, it will be breezy, high around 80, low in the lower 60s. The outlook for Wednesday, partly to mostly cloudy skies with a chance of afternoon showers and isolated thunderstorms, high in the upper 70s, low in the mid 60s. I'm WHAV meteorologist Jim Vaughn. Your next wave weather in 30 minutes.
WHAV Open Mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, 97.9 WHAV FM presents the new Open Mic Show with Bill Masek. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900.
We are back on the new Open Mic Show. Bill Masek here, along with Bill Ellis and Dan Kennedy, our special guest for this hour, who is speaking a lot about a whole bunch of stuff because Dan has a wide... You're a little like me. I always said I should have a hat rack beside my desk, and you're kind of the same kind of guy because you're an associate professor of journalism at Northeastern University, and you're also a media commentator or a panelist on WGBH TV's Beat the Press. You have also done other things, other publications. You previously wrote a media column for The Guardian, and before that, you were right in with the Boston Phoenix in its heyday, I'm sure, right?
The heyday, I think a lot of people would say, was the 70s and 80s. I was there in the 90s and early 2000s.
Okay.
And it was a great time, but everybody always said, well, you should have been here during the good old days.
Yeah, but it was a great paper, and I think a lot of people missed it when it finally left. But
I miss it.
Yeah, it was a great paper. So your book, The Return of the Moguls, how would somebody, if they're interested in getting this book, can they get it on Amazon? Where can they go to get a look at your book?
Well, they can certainly get it on Amazon. Of course, we always like to encourage people to either get it at their local independent bookstore or order it through their local independent bookstore. But it's certainly there on Amazon, and a lot of people prefer to read on a Kindle, and that's the only way you're going to get it.
That's right.
Now, do you have book signings at any of these bookstores?
I've had a few. I've had a number of events where I've had signings, sure. I did one in Worcester last week.
And you're on a little book tour right now.
Yes, I'm on a little book tour.
Where are you going?
Well, I'm very excited that it's all been local up until now, but this week I'm heading to Washington, and on Wednesday evening I'm going to be speaking at the National Press Club.
Wow, that's
and
good.
on Thursday evening I'm speaking to Northeastern alumni who are in Washington.
Okay, that's great because you're right. You're one of the Northeastern profs, right?
Yeah, some of my former students work for the Washington Post, and a few of them are coming, so I'm very excited.
Well, you'll have an enjoyable time and help promote your book.
Absolutely.
So if anybody has a call for Dan, 978-374-1900 is the number to call in. Right now it's 7:39, so you got about 21 minutes to get in on the new open mic show. How many books have you written?
This is my third. My first book, which came out in 2003, was actually about dwarfism. It's called Little People, and it's partly a memoir of raising a daughter with dwarfism, but I also get into a lot of the medical and scientific and social issues surrounding that. And then my last book, which came out in 2013, was called The Wired City. And that was about a new breed of online-only local news organizations. It was the one that I looked at the most closely in that was the New Haven Independent, which is this wonderful nonprofit news site. And interestingly enough, since the book came out, they've added a really impressive community low-power FM radio station similar to WHAV.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's
I
great.
see when you talk about dwarfism, the last surviving member of the Munchkins from the Wizard of Oz just passed away.
I saw
away,
that.
yeah.
I saw that.
Was he like 102 or something? I mean, it was
See, he made it to triple digits, Billy. I don't think you're going to get there, seriously.
Well, look, you know,
he what?
He made it to triple. I say I don't. I want to live to
That's
triple
Bill's
digits.
goal to make it to the
There you
100
go.
mark.
Into the
He
hundreds,
just wants the weatherman on was it NBC there to say a call out to Bill Masick, who just turned century mark today,
Right.
and
Yeah.
Smucker's
Jams
or whatever.
will sponsored the announcements. Yeah, that was what was his name? Wow,
Willard Scott.
Willard Scott,
Yeah.
yes.
He doesn't do it anymore.
Doesn't Al Roker call out the
Al
bird
probably
guys?
does it. Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
never
I
have
bet
the
he
TV
does.
on in the morning.
How do you think Al looks
I
after
mean,
he had that weight loss? Looks different.
He
Yes,
does
he
look
does.
different. Yeah. That whole show's changed. Yeah. Where's Matt? Where's Matt Lauer?
Oh, where's Matt
He's
Lauer?
trying to find a buyer for Hamptons.
He's looking for the button.
The mute button?
No, the button that closed the door. Right,
the
him into his office.
Boy, that was unbelievable.
Now, do you check looking at all on the news? You know, do you ever look at TV news?
You know, I probably spend less time looking at TV news than I do newspapers and online. I just don't find a huge amount of value in TV news. I think one of the great missed opportunities we have is that we have 3 24-hour cable news channels, and none of the 3 do much in the way of news coverage.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
They're all talk shows.
Now, just for the benefit of our listeners and viewers, I'm going to ask you a question that I think is important. I want them to hear your answer. Is everything on the internet true?
I didn't used to think so, but then I saw an essay by Abraham Lincoln that said everything on the internet is true.
Oh, yeah. Good answer. Yeah, by Abraham Lincoln. Did he probably just put it in on his cell phone?
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Back
Send out
then,
a tweet.
Back then, it was coal-powered.
Some people
cell
think,
phones.
though, that everything they read on the internet is gospel.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? I mean, you were giving it to the kids a little while ago. I think that when it comes to believing falsehoods on the internet, I think that's where us old people come into. Come into.
Yeah, but some of it's ridiculous though that you read that people will follow. You know, it's like
it's absolutely
reading a story
crazy.
about the 3-headed man that was upset because he couldn't get a discount at the hat store.
Now, come on, that one was real, wasn't it?
I think it was.
Okay.
Yeah, but
No, but I mean, it's amazing, and I hate to tell you, I've seen obvious fake news stories shared by retired journalists, retired investigative reporters.
Really?
And it's like, why don't you just go to Snopes and plug in a few
Right.
words?
I was just going to ask you that. Do you ever use Snopes
I
just
use
to
Snopes
try
all
to get?
the time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
how
me
accurate
too.
is Snopes?
Snopes is the gold standard. I mean, I know
but didn't
that.
they find that it was leaning a little bit to the left?
Well, actually, the right has tried to discredit Snopes, and it's a shame because it's still the gold standard. And it's not to say that they don't make an occasional mistake, but they're very good at what they do.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now, why did you pick John Henry and Bezos together? Are they doing similar direction?
No, they're not. Well, yes and no. Yes and no.
Do you create like differences and conflict in your book?
I wanted to look at a few projects rather than try to do a endless look at one project.
An expose.
And fortunately, the three of them, not just Jeff Bezos and John Henry, but also Aaron Kushner with the Orange County Register, turned out to be taking a very different approach. Kushner pushed print. He was very big on the print edition. He even improved the quality of the paper that it was printed on. And he might have had some success. It's not a great long-term strategy, but it made some sense for the short and the medium term. Where Kushner got into trouble is that he inherited a staff of about 180 people, and within a matter of months added 150 people to it.
Wow.
And there was just no way that could be sustained.
That wasn't going to work.
I think he thought that advertisers and readers were going to be so grateful at what he had done that they were just going to shower him with money, and they didn't.
Yeah.
And Aaron Kushner certainly fits the wealthy entrepreneur model, but he didn't have the kind of money that John Henry or Jeff Bezos had. So, unfortunately, he ended up getting forced out, and the Register is now owned by Digital First, the same company that owns the Boston Herald and the Lowell Sun and the Fitchburg Sentinel. Henry's approach, he's tried a lot of different things. He's tried expanded print editions for business, lifestyle, and politics. He's kind of had to scale those back again. He tried a website for the Catholic Church that didn't work out, although it still publishes under the columnist that he hired to run it. He actually gave it to him, and it's now published in conjunction with the Knights of Columbus and does okay.
Do the Catholics still have the pilot?
The Catholics still have the pilot, yes. I actually worked for a few months at the pilot in 1990. That's a long story that we probably won't get into.
Okay.
But I was actually doing page design for them. I wasn't covering news for them.
Would you do write a little op-ed about your pro-abortion stance, and that was it? You were done?
Well, they never asked if I was a Catholic, and I never told them I wasn't. So we got along just fine.
How do you feel about, we'll call them bloggers, the people that comment on the stories? Do you read those? Do you think it's a good idea for papers on their digital output to allow for anonymous in a lot of times? They don't even use their real name to say some pretty dicey things at times, and they come after people and information that they're not right a lot of the times.
Bill, I think you're leading the witness.
If you want me to rephrase it,
no, that's
Your
fine.
Honor.
When we started down this road 20 years ago, I think a lot of us were very optimistic and idealistic about what commenters could bring to the table, and unfortunately, I think the what we had hoped for has been driven out by sociopathy. And the two things that I think any news organization that is serious about comments has to do is first, not the real names, first they have to screen every comment before it goes up. You just have to do it. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're not serious about comments. And then second, I think they should consider real names, but I don't think that's as important as making sure that none of these hateful comments go up in the first place. Because not only does that create a cesspool, but it also makes it so that anybody who wants to post a constructive comment, they look at what's going on and they say, I'm not going to post here. People are just going to attack me.
Yeah, about 10, 12 years ago, in a local edition paper, there was the paper exposed. They were doing different names, and then they realized that all of these middle-of-the-night comments were coming from one computer by the IM.
It was a local official around
Yeah,
here.
it was.
I wrote about that.
I was on the city council at the time, and still
Were
am.
you?
And it was somebody who was on that council. And a lot of the shots, I was kind of in the line of fire, and that was quite an experience to learn from as to what can happen if, as you said, they aren't reviewing. They don't have the courage to take somebody's comment down because they're worried it might interfere with their circulation. So they let them go, and sometimes it does run wild.
It's just crazy. I wrote about that case.
I'm glad you remember it.
I remember it very well. I should, if I can remember, I'll forward it to you.
I'd love to see it, yeah.
Yeah.
Billy, we have to take a short break.
We do.
But Dan, when we get back, I'm going to ask you about a similar situation that goes back a couple of hundred years.
Okay.
Okay.
I wasn't here.
All right. We're going to take a break right now on the new open mic right here on WHAV 97.9 FM.
Open mic.
Bill Masek and the new open mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900. If you're enjoying this program, consider becoming a WHAV member right now. Just click on the membership tab at WHAV.net.
Try listening to WHAV in your car or anywhere on your mobile phone. For fast access, visit WHAV.net.
Catch the wave.
Would it surprise you to know radio still reaches more than 90% of people in every age group every week? It's a fact. And 97.9 WHAV FM's target audience averages 92%. While other media are cutting back, area residents turn to WHAV for local news, information, and entertainment they cannot find elsewhere. Add what has been called the halo effect of public radio, and listeners find business messages more credible and trustworthy than other forms of advertising. For a no-obligation assessment about how WHAV can help your business reach more people than all other local media combined, call 978-374-1900 or visit WHAV.net.
Catch the wave. WHAV. Open mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, 97.9 WHAV FM presents the new Open Mic Show with Bill Masek. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900.
Okay, we're making the final turn to the finish line here. We got Dan Kennedy, our guest on the new open mic, and Dan is an author. He's a professor. He's a radio and TV celebrity of sorts, and a journalist. So he's quite the guy. And his new book right here is called "The Return of the Moguls," and it says how Jeff Bezos and John Henry are remaking newspapers for the 21st century. So it's a great story because it's what's really happening and where the future. You're kind of almost predicting the future on what may occur in the not too distant future with information, with news.
Yeah, and I think the one to really keep an eye on, Bezos turned the Washington Post into a successful and profitable operation pretty quickly. That is to say, they say it's but it's privately held and they won't release any numbers. But certainly it's doing pretty well.
Yeah.
John Henry has the hardest job in the business. There's nothing worse than trying to turn around one of these large regional newspapers. The approach that he's finally settled on is charging money for digital, a lot of money for print, and seeing if he can get readers to pay for that. And they are almost at 100,000 digital-only subscribers. What they say is that if they can get to 200,000, it starts to look like a sustainable business. And everybody's watching this. And if John Henry can prove that you can make money by charging for digital subscriptions, that's going to have a very good effect on the business, because a lot of these other publishers are going to look at this and say, well, I can do that. They're going to say, but people aren't going to pay if I keep cutting. And so that is
Right.
so that could have a really good effect.
Well, like the Wall Street Journal, you got to pay for that. I mean, there's a lot. All your bigger, credible papers in the country.
The Wall Street Journal really kind of led the way
Right.
in charging, but it was always thought that financial news was one of the very few things you could charge for. So,
You're talking about the future of the press. I want to ask you about the past of the press and the influence that the press had when John Adams was running against Thomas Jefferson for president. What influence did that have on that election?
well, the press in the early days was very different from what it is now. You were talking about a more partisan press earlier, Bill.
Yeah.
The press in the early years of the Republic was hyper-partisan, and part of it was because it was very expensive to print newspapers back then, and they tended to be sponsored by political parties. So everybody was just completely down in the dirt. I'm actually listening to the audio version of Ron Chernow's Hamilton biography right now, and it's just so interesting to hear. Hamilton had a newspaper that he used to attack Jefferson. Jefferson had a newspaper he used to attack Hamilton.
And the public knew that. They had to have known.
Yeah, but Jefferson,
Oh, sure. They
Jefferson though, had
absolutely
hired
knew
somebody basically to badmouth John Adams.
Yep.
And it persuaded people to vote for Jefferson. And a big part of the attack was because if they didn't have a treaty in France. And what ended up happening is after Adams lost the election, of course, they didn't have CNN to watch. When the
Right.
news came back, there was a treaty that was signed.
Yep.
But you talk about Hamilton. Now, Hamilton took a shot at somebody in the newspaper who ended up taking a shot at the in a little field in New Jersey.
Yes.
A fellow named Aaron Burr.
Right.
He killed him, Bill.
Oh,
it was
yes,
a
he did.
duel.
Yeah, I knew that.
Yep.
You did.
I thought you
Yeah.
were going to add more to that.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes. One of the things I'm learning with Chernow's biography is that Hamilton was so hot-headed that there were several other occasions in which he almost ended up in a duel. So it's a wonder he lived as long as he did.
You know, his son died on the same dueling grounds as his father did?
I did not know that.
Yes.
I did
And the
not
funny
know
thing
that.
about Hamilton was tremendous with the money of the United States, but he was terrible with his own personal funds. In fact, he lived in New York, but he ended up working in Philadelphia because that's where the capital was at first.
Right.
And he had a girlfriend, and he was giving her money. And then there was a question coming up, where was the money coming from? And I guess a couple of senators approached him. They said, are you giving her money from the Treasury?
Right.
And he did not. He was his own personal funds.
Yep.
And that was probably one of the first scandals here in the United States, Bill.
It was quite a scandal. Indeed it was. Mariah Reynolds.
Was that her name?
Yes.
Do you have a number?
Well, just one last thing. Let me throw in that your book also includes a lot of historical connections between the Globe and the Red Sox, and the Globe and public officials. Did you expect to find that when you started writing your book, or is it just something that kind of appeared?
No, I mean, I kind of knew about the Globe's long history with the Red Sox. I didn't know all the details of it, so...
But it's in your book.
Yes, in the course of doing the research for the book, I learned much more about it than I had known before. So people talk about, well, can the Globe cover the Red Sox fairly? And they've been through this before. Taylor's owned the Red Sox for a while.
Yeah.
And even in the 90s, the New York Times Company, which owned the Red Sox then, were also part owners of the Red Sox. So this goes way back. And you want to talk about managing conflicts. That's nothing. I mean, Amazon does business with the CIA. and the Washington Post has to write about that. That's a much more difficult situation to cover.
Yeah.
You know, reporters in the past, there was a story during the 1920s, and it was it's the baseball team, the New York Yankees, and they had a press car, you know, because they traveled by train.
Right.
And Babe Ruth ran through naked with a woman chasing him with a knife. And one reporter said to the other, "Did you see that?" He said, "No, did you?" You know, because they didn't want to blemish,
Right.
you know, the image. I mean, the only thing they really talked about Babe Ruth back then was his Coney Island hot dog. You know, he ate 12 of those, and he was sick as a dog.
Yeah. Reported on that just because it happened all the time.
I think
it wasn't newsworthy.
there were some there were some
Babe.
things that I think reporters had like standards they didn't want to go there, and that's no longer the case.
Well, because
but-
he was a god figure to many people,
Yeah.
and if that had come out, you know, just think of how many children, you know, would have lost the Babe.
Well, some of the things we found out about that even have happened in the White House over the last 50 years were not really reported. But
No.
I think it was known, but there was a hush
Yep.
on a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I mean I think that ended with Watergate.
Yeah.
And now, you know, there's no private life for public figures. Certainly not for presidents and presidential
Right.
candidates.
Well, we're just about out of time here, Dan. Is there anything you want to add or comment on or say?
Oh boy, I don't know. You know, I'll just say I've been up here to WHAV before, and local independent media and journalism are so important, and I just continue to be impressed with what you all do up here.
Well, I agree with you. We're the last of the independents, and I think it's important. So we're going to keep doing it, you know, for another, 40, 50 years for me.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
40 or 50
All right.
years.
Dan Kennedy, his
Optimistic
new
Bill.
book.
You can have me on.
Yeah, that's it. We'll wheel you in. Dan Kennedy, The Return of the Moguls. Pick up his book. You can get it at your local bookstore, or you can get it online, but get it because it's very interesting reading. So pick it up. Dan Kennedy, The Return of the Moguls. Thanks for coming in, Dan. We really appreciate you being here, and that's it for tonight.
Thank you, Bill and Bill.
Thank
You're
you.
more than welcome. Thank you.
That's it. The end of another new open mic show on WHAV 97.9 FM.
Open mic.
Join Bill Masek live on the new open mic again next Monday night at 6. The opinions expressed on the open mic show are not necessarily those of 97.9 WHAV FM, its underwriters, or affiliated stations. The open mic show came to you from the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom.